Hello everybody and welcome to Lockdown Literature, courtesy of the Studio Online and the National Lottery Community Fund. You are about to listen to an audio story from a series of writing gathered during the COVID-19 lockdown from both the adults and children's write-on sessions. So relax, settle back and enjoy a selection of writing from some of the finest creative minds at the studio. Hallborough Stones by Richard Bradshaw.
Christopher was a pleasant person. People genuinely liked him. He had been a successful, if unspectacular businessman and had recently returned to his childhood village to enjoy the early retirement he had long promised himself and which his frugal ways now permitted him to realise. After a somewhat whimsical decision a year earlier to enrol in a digital photography class, he was now a novice photographer with all the unbridled enthusiasm which that entails. He was besotted, and any harboured doubts regarding how he would fill his time in retirement were long gone. Snapping away contentedly, he was soon a familiar sight around the village and had become something of a local history buff. Fascinated at how little he knew, his fascination only grew the more he learned. His deceased parents' absence was the only oddity. In all other respects, he felt the old cottage had casually thrown a welcoming arm around his shoulder even as he entered. He was by no means a recluse, yet sought no particular company. He was happy. He decided to make a pictorial record of the local landmarks and showed a caring, ceaseless diligence in their portrayal. Every nook and cranny beckoned to his eager eye. The stone, however, drew him back inexorably without him ever quite knowing why. It seemed somehow altered by season, even, it occurred to him, in fanciful mood. Daily. He photographed it often and memorised its inscription almost by osmosis. That is my gift to you alone. It was, he supposed, the commemorative stone of the old rectory, now in total disuse and haughty, stately disrepair. He imagined the inscription as a private, cryptic message from the master stonemason, and often wondered, gift to whom? He was in the cottage almost a year before he decided he must sort out his parents' belongings. The little place was bursting at the seams. Inevitably, this turned into a long, meandering wander through letters and old photographs. Himself as a child, his parents, local shops, old Mr. Leatherbarrow, the rectory in its pomp. There was even one of the stone. The stone. Something, though, was wrong. Well, different anyway. At first unsure, he looked again. There it was. The inscription was all awry. Impossible. He took a magnifying glass and read, "The stones are laid beside the stone." He compared the photo with a recent one of his own. It was the same stone, doubtless. Very odd indeed. Leatherbarrow's butchers had stood in the village forever. Nobody could remember a time when it wasn't there. Vaguely troubled, he explained his local history project to Tim, great-grandson of the founder and present incumbent, and asked him when the inscription on the stone had been changed. Tim looked askance and asked him where he had gotten such a strange notion. "Why would anyone do that?" he asked. "Still," he added, It wouldn't be the strangest thing that's ever happened up there, according to the local myth anyway. Not that I believe in such nonsense, mind. Christopher was all ears. The mystery was a real 200-year-old rural Romeo and Juliet. Two warring families endlessly contesting ownership of a mutual ancestor's bejewelled ring. Young love crossing the divide. Vengeance sworn and quite possibly enacted. A young man abducted from the village and taken to some unknown place to an unknown fate. It's said they made absolutely sure that he could never return, if you follow my meaning. Though nobody was ever formally accused of anything, Tim shrugged. Christopher mentioned the young woman. Ah, well now. She barricaded herself in the rectory, wouldn't come out, wouldn't even let the rector in. Legend says she starved herself to death. People swore blind they'd heard her wailing for miles. Some still do. She's buried somewhere in the grounds. The story goes she wrote endless poems to her young man, though none were ever found. Country tales for winter nights, if you ask me. The ring disappeared some time after, everyone suspecting one another of stealing it. Christopher visited the stone that afternoon and every day from then on. On the 5th day, new markings started to appear and were soon cutting deeper into the stone. Line by line they emerged, the letters smaller now to accommodate the lengthening text. By the 3rd week the stone clearly read, "The stones are laid beside the stone. That is my gift to you alone. Take it and we shall be twice blessed. Your wealth is my eternal rest." A small scrap of paper fluttered down as if fallen from the mouldering mortar between the mottled stones. The same tear-stained words were written there in a trembling hand. He shuddered with vaulting fear and froze to blood-chilling cold on that balmy, windless, summer-kissed day. It was signed Marianne. Then, on the ground where the paper had lain, he noticed the glint that shone ever brighter as he stared intently down. It was almost a week before he found the courage to dig in that spot. When he did, the sumptuous ring lay sparkling in the open palm of a dismembered hand that seemed as warm and alive as would any young heart enthralled in first, last, only love. He took the ring and stirred entranced, mesmerised by the faultless beauty of the bedazzling gems. His gaze fell back upon the severed hand, just as the last slivers of flesh were sloughing away from the gleaming bones that crumbled before his eyes to dust that leapt and swept away into the sudden dancing playful breeze. Gone. Completely, as was the inscription. Returning home from the London auction, 200 elegantly bound volumes of his A Pictorial History of Hallborough were awaiting him. Enough for everyone in the village who wanted one. He would order more if needed. He could afford it. "Marvellous, lovely. How much?" asked Tim, opening the till. "Oh, there's no charge," said Christopher. "Just my way of saying thank you."